It was an acid test as well, out half for Harry Byrne. Birch, how did he get on?
Yeah, he was good. He's very skillful. There's no doubt about that. And to be honest, probably the conditions wouldn't suit his natural game because I think he's someone whose passing game is very very strong. Obviously, he's got decent pace as well. But he looked more than comfortable. Obviously, I presume the injury he got was when he came down. He came down catching a high ball. One of the kick escorts got underneath him, and it looked like a heavy blow. But in fairness, he stayed on for until the was it 38th, 39th minute. Yeah, he was fine.
49, I
Like
think, was it?
yeah, he was absolutely fine. But in my opinion, Frawley stole the show, and it's not just the last minute kick. It was even his exit kick, which led to Leinster getting territory for that penalty. Like Leinster got a turnover, not far from their own goal line, and he bangs it over halfway. Now Toolan plays it quickly, but Leinster they just relieve pressure massively, and Leinster would have backed their kick chase at that stage. I don't think La Rochelle had shown anything to make them fear not getting it off the pitch there. There was just he just looks he just looks ready. He looks ready. He's in peak form, and for me, I thought he should have started this weekend. And I don't know what the situation injury wise is next weekend, but I just want to see him get a run of games at 10. I think if he gets a run of game 10, we'll know whether he's as good as we think he is or not. But if he's back on the bench, it's just he's just missing opportunities really. And that's nothing against Harry. As I said, I think Harry has so much ability, but I just think at the moment Frawley seems to be in the peak. Mentally, he just seems to be there, ready, composed, showing a bit of character, wants to have big moments. And when a 10 is in that space, I think it's important that they get the chance. But look, we'd see they obviously have Ross could be back this week. Harry may be back. Um, Leo Leo's very fond of having Frawley on the bench. And yeah, it's worked out pretty well, for Leinster bar trophy. So maybe that's what they'll do again.
I think Harry Byrne is just so deeply unfortunate that the injury came when it did, and he didn't get longer because I actually thought he was having a really good game, and I don't think this match at all leaves either of these guys further ahead than they might have been. I think they're actually it's created even more doubt because they both played well. They both had a really important say in this win, and because Frawley kicks that late penalty, which obviously was incredibly impressive. What a hit! He had the wind behind him, but it was a serious connection, and it's kind of being lauded, I suppose, as the game-winning moment, even though it was just kind of putting a little bit extra gloss on the score line. And I'd say that Harry Byrne thinks this is deeply unfair. I had a massive say in the key moment of the match, which was the try. As I say, that's the difference between the team. He's the one who calls that play almost certainly. He's the one who has a lovely slick bit of handling to get the ball into space. He's the one who absolutely nails his conversion of that try, which is a really important moment to give a little bit of breathing room there. I know he kicked one ball dead, but he had some brilliant kicks from hand. I thought the banana kick off the outside of his right boot down the right hand side, that was nearly a 50-22, was really excellent. He had some other lovely touches on the ball. And I actually thought it was a really good 39 minutes where he showed why Leinster had stuck with him as their 10 and why they've been backing him. And if he'd had a chance to just steer it home a little bit more, I think we'd probably be talking about him if he continued as he had. But he was, as I say, deeply unfortunate to go off. And then Frawley does come on and he comes straight off the bench and he nails the penalty. That's his first act off the bench. And while it's a central position, it was into the wind and there was never any doubt about it. He absolutely hammered it home and did a really good job. Physically, he looks so comfortable in those circumstances. And he had a couple of errors as well that he'd love to get back. But I actually think both of the out halves furthered their case for starts down the line. And it actually makes it an even more difficult decision. But I do think it's important that while Frawley he has gotten the headlines and he'll get the social media clips, I think it's important to say that Harry Byrne had a really big say in putting Leinster into position from where they could go and win the game.
Let me ask you both this question because Ross Byrne is the incumbent and he never gets the credit he deserves in these types of conversations because it's always shiny new toy. We know Ross Byrne's a very good player. In fairness, on this podcast, we're always clear about that. But you kind of see Harry Byrne getting a chance taking it. Ciarán Frawley is still a relatively new out half. He took his chance off the bench and it creates a little bit of excitement. But I'll start with you, Birch. if Leinster meet La Rochelle in a knockout game, so it's a Champions Cup final, say we're talking about May, who is Leinster's first choice out half at that point?
Well, if Frawley doesn't get game time, it's going to be Ross. It's going to be Ross, because that's the problem at the moment. Is, and in fairness, this isn't a problem. It's a problem for Frawley and Harry, is how many big games they get. Like, if I'm not sure when Ross is back. If Ross is back, he'll do a very good job. He'll steer Leinster through most of the games, and he is your most experienced 10. He's weighted in line. I don't have any issue with Ross playing at all. And he will be the starting 10 if they play La Rochelle in a semi-final or final, unless he's out for a little bit longer and Harry or Frawley get a run of games. If it's Harry again this week, and then Ross is back next week, and then Frawley gets the game over in the Interpros over Christmas, I think it'll be Ross. That's the way it is at the moment, is that just dividing it all up and trying to keep everyone happy will just mean the pecking order doesn't change. I don't think that's the challenge. So I'm not saying, look, that's Leo has to manage that, and he does it very well. But the reality is, we're not going to find out who the best man for the job is unless one of the understudies, and let's leave Prendergast out of it for a moment. Let's go Harry or Frawley, gets a run of games, and maybe they've already decided that was Harry, and if he's fit this week, he starts again. I agree with Murray. He had a very good game. He had a very good first half. But like, I don't think Frawley. The reason I'm not overly concerned about Frawley is, I think he can play that play for the try for Larmer as well. I mean, I don't see him like the Jack Crowley, Ben Healy scenario where you've got two very different types of 10s. I think they're both very good footballers. And yeah, and look, maybe Harry gets another game this weekend against Sale, and we're sure he's the next in line to Ross. Then Ross comes back and gets 2 or 3 games in January to show he's competing with Crowley. But in fairness, this isn't all Leinster's fault. Leinster have been so unfortunate with, obviously, Harry and Ciarán have had injuries at bad times as well. So it's no one's fault as such, but now they're both fit, they were both fit. It'd be good to just see. I'd like to see one of them get consistent starts at 10.
Same question to you, Mer.
I think Ross Byrne, in my mind, absolutely, with a bit of certainty, to be honest, given what he's done, given where he is in his career, given what he's done for Leinster. But I do think that even this game, both of them playing well and one of them off the bench, again shows that Leinster can be more effective with their 23. And again, it's impossible not to relate it back to the Springboks because of the Nienaber connection. But look what they did with Libbok and Pollard. And in certain key games, they used both those out halves, which is, again, it's slightly against what we just are used to in rugby, where your out half starts and finishes the game ideally, or nearly finishes the game until the job is done. But maybe Leinster can be a bit more proactive now that there's not a Johnny Sexton who's clearly so far ahead of everyone, and they can actually use the different types of out halves that they have in their squad more effectively, depending on the circumstance of the match. But I do think Ross Byrne is at the top of that pecking order, and as Bert says, that can change though. That can change, and I sense more of an open-mindedness from Leinster around that kind of stuff now. And